Last week, I was very saddened to learn the news that, in my mind, even though he may not have had that many stand-up specials, a comedic legend, John Witherspoon, passed away. Now, for those of you who know who John Witherspoon is, he was always high spirits, seemed to always have a good attitude, good personality. For those of you who may not just recognize him directly by name, if you've seen the Friday movies or the Wayans Brothers TV show, he was Pops. You may also recognize him, the granddad that played on the Boondocks. He did the voice for the granddad. And he was also in a TV series in some more recent years, Black Jesus. Okay. But nonetheless, John Witherspoon, my opinion, very funny stand-up comic. I liked a lot of his stuff. And, he was around doing comedy all the way back in the days of Richard Pryor. Okay. Not too long ago, he and his son were on Joe Rogan's podcast. I believe his son's getting into stand-up comedy as well these days. But, just an incredible guy from the things I've seen of him. And I feel like he actually talked about a lot of issues going on in the world that he saw around him, that he incorporated into his stand-up comedy while trying to put some humor on those issues, and also discussing them at the same time without being too serious about them. So on today's episode, we're going to watch some old clips from a stand-up comedy special that John Witherspoon did back in early 2000s called You've Got to Coordinate. Take a look at some of the things that he talked about, and we'll discuss as we watch.
My son is into hip-hop. Where all this hip-hop come from? Who started this with the sagging of the pants? You ever see the kid walk around with their pants sagging off? This shit is not hip. That's not hip. Look at this shit. That's not hip with your motherfucking pants hanging all down there. Yeah. And my son don't even know how to sag. My son walk around like that. Look at that. Yeah. Party like a rock. Party like a rock star. Party like a rock. Party like a rock star. We fly high, so high, and this ballin'.
So just right off the bat, I had to start with this particular clip. The whole sagging thing, man. He had a very humorous way of going about it and talking, but I mean, let's be honest. It's been a trend now for a very long time, and it's a big part of the reason, a lot of people in today's generation just don't get taken seriously. Look at it as tacky, distasteful, whatever your personal view is on it, but it's a concept that people thought was cool, but obviously I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard this by now. It's also something that started in prison as a way of basically saying, I'm available. So that's definitely something, in my opinion, that should be gone a long time ago. But nonetheless, he's put a very, comedic spin on the whole issue while pointing out just how stupid it is. So.
Who started all that damn hip-hop shit? I tell my son, boy, cover your crusty ass up. Go get some lotion put on your crusty ass. Your ass so crusty, look like it's gonna bleed. I can write a note on your ass, it's so fucking crusty. I can write a note with my fingernail, your ass so fucking crusty. They don't want to hear about my life. How I grew up broke. We don't want to hear about that. Oh, Daddy, we don't want to hear about your life, Daddy. Come on, Daddy. I'm from a family of 11 kids. 11 kids. And people said, well, how's your mother and father? Shit, they're dead. You have 11 fucking kids, they're going to be dead. You think they're out jogging? They're out jogging. 11.
That is true. If I had 11 kids, I don't see me living past 40, man. Good Lord. I can't even imagine that. That's enough. That really would be enough to put you in an early grave, man. Good Lord. 11 kids.
Fucking kids. I used to wear 2 left boots to school. 2 fucking left boots. And one of them was a high heel. I walked to school like this. Look at I'm trying to hit on a woman. I got to put my leg up like that. Hey, baby, how you doing? Yeah, baby. Yeah, you a fine motherfucker. Come on, baby, let's go. I'm leaving footprints in the snow. Look like a fucking Martian coming out here, motherfucker. They don't want to hear about my life. I don't think kids today understand this shit, boy. You know what? Let me tell y'all something, boy. Kids are spoiled today. My son.
Just real quick to butt in. So you notice what he did there, and this is what a lot of older generations do. And I think sometimes a lot of the younger generation really does take it for granted. Probably in the majority of the case, they actually take it for granted. But what he's describing, the whole 2 left boots thing and the high heel. Older generations had it rough, man. I mean, that's serious. That's really something serious. My grandmother told me stories about, today you get in trouble in school, they put you in ISS or, something like that, right? Back in her day, you got in trouble in school, they made you go out and pick cotton. You had to go out and work in the sun and pick cotton. It's a different time. It's a different time, okay? And so, that older generations didn't live the way we live today. They didn't have air conditioning in their house. Some of them didn't even have indoor plumbing, okay? Had big families in a small house. Recycled the clothes a lot. Even, certain portions of my family right now. Take my mom, for example, when she was growing up. Didn't get a lot of store-bought clothes. Didn't go out to eat very often. Handmade clothes, hand-me-downs, things like that. A lot of Goodwill stuff. And the older generations, that's just how they lived. So it was a completely different time period. And then you take a lot of these kids today who think they have it hard in a lot of ways. And now I will say, in some aspects, it is a lot worse for younger generations. Take the issue of school now. You really have to have that education, but they've screwed the education system up so bad, you basically bankrupt yourself trying to get one. So that's definitely, a harder thing. And then, of course, the way that they're not really incentivizing you to learn more trade-related jobs. They're basically telling these kids, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter if you want to go be a welder or if you want to go be an artistic major. Well, it kind of does. I'm not saying you shouldn't follow your dreams, chase your passions, but you also have to be realistic in the sense, what is hiring more? If you need a job and you're not just able to float along, your parents are going to support you until you reach your dream or something like that. If you need a job and you need a form of income, unfortunately, that whole American dream that floats out there, that you can just get whatever you want. Yeah, in some cases you can. And in other cases, if you don't have the resources, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You're going to have to do what's necessary to make ends meet and pay your bills. And unfortunately, the art teacher is not the highest employing of jobs out there. So you need a good trade. And I don't think a lot of schools are really doing their most on that. But a lot of the kids today, though, half of them, complain if they don't have the latest phone that just come out, or they're not wearing the latest trends that just come out. If people like that had to worry about, older people had to worry about things like that back in their day, I doubt that they would have had it that bad. They look at that and like, yeah, that's a joke of something to worry about. That's very, very superficial, and if that's what your biggest problem is, yeah, son, you got nothing to worry about. So it's like I said, in some ways, there are things that affect younger generations harder than it did older generations. But on the other hand, there's a lot of things that the young generation's really spoiled in as well.
Don't they? Aren't they spoiled? My son sat out all night long. He sat out all night long at Target from 6 p.m. to 8 in the morning so he can be first in line to get that Xbox 354, whatever that shit is. When my son came back home, I said, let me tell you something, John David. I want you to go back to Target. Sit out all night long from 6 p.m. to 8 in the morning. When they open up, try to get a fucking job. I tell you one thing, I take my hat off to the soldiers in Iraq. I take my hat off to them. That's right. Working their ass off. I talked to a soldier. I traveled all over this country. I talked to a soldier 2 weeks ago. He said it's 135 degrees over there. And they got all that shit on. I'll shoot everybody that moves. I'll shoot myself in the fucking leg.
And so that's one other thing to pay attention to. Again, he's adding the comedic humor into it, lightening the mood, but bringing up an actual concern there. Regardless of how you feel about the politicians that get us into these wars, whether you agree with us being in them or whether you think that we should be minding our own business more, every one of us should remember what these people who are being put on the battlefield have to go through. The conditions that they're going through to serve the military, whether the people in charge of it are in the right or in the wrong. They're still put in those predicaments. And this is what they're doing to, quote, serve the country. Okay? And it's a hell, man. It really is. So regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, he's pointing out, we should be paying our respect to the troops for what they're doing and what they're putting on the line.
I'm going to tell you who I think are crazy. See, people go over there to get a job. The people go to Iraq to work. They got 130,000 soldiers, but there are 180,000 workers over there. Can you imagine that shit? You know what the lure is? I'm going to tell you what the lure is. You get $1,000 an hour. Dude, ain't that a bitch? Shit. 8-hour day, $8,000. 40-hour week, $40,000. But downside of that shit is, when those sand niggas catch your ass, cut your fucking head off.
And so, just put another pause in there real quick. I don't know if that was true that people going over there to work were getting $1,000 an hour or not. I would have to do some research on that, but let's examine the bigger issue here. People going over there to get work. That's very believable. Very believable. And again, why is that? Things we've covered on this channel. Bad trade deals that lost our jobs. And something that actually brings up a good point. There was a guy that I used to work with. He was an ex-Marine, and he said that the United States no longer had real product that we sold to the rest of the world. In other words, basically, our manufacturing is dead. We don't turn out product that the rest of the world buys, so what we offer the rest of the world basically is our military. So what you're implying is that we're a bunch of mercs? I wouldn't brag about that. I don't think that's something to brag about, that we're a mercenary country. But nonetheless, that's what he's getting at. These trade deals have wrecked our jobs. The military and the military-industrial complex, they've got the grip on things. They're the ones, along with Big Pharma and others, lobbying the politicians, bribing the politicians, trying to keep them in their pockets. Okay, and so as a result of all that, you get the systems that we have today. And so a lot of people are having to turn to either joining the military or doing some sort of contractor work, whether it be going to work with Halliburton to go take care of stuff in the Iraq War or whatever the situation was, to get work and to make money. And of course, by doing that, they're putting themselves in pretty dangerous situations just to make that money. And, when we could do what's right by the people and, create jobs of the future, that are going to be sustainable and invest back into our people, that's what we should be doing, not forcing them to have to go sit on the battlefield or something just to get some health care and some money. I mean, that's it's pretty rough. But I think that's more or less the point that he's getting at there. People are having to put themselves in these situations just to make some money instead of making money here. Now, maybe it's because they're making really good money. That's a possibility, but there's also a lot more who just join the military. And I can tell you right now, you don't get $1,000 an hour to join the military.
Now think of this shit. You've been over there for 8 months, 8 fucking months. You ain't got caught yet. You over there, you're in the corner now counting your money there. You look up, a shadow come over your head. Now what kills me when they get caught, they all tied up now, their feet all tied up and shackled, and they're all sad, you know, go home, please. Somebody help me out of here, please. I want to get out of here, please. Do anything they said when we get to my hometown. Please, if that was me and I got caught trying to hustle that fucking money, and they got my ass tied up, I'll be trying to talk their language. They be trying to cut my head off. I be duck like a motherfucker. Be still. Fuck you. Assalamu alaikum baloney. Assalamu alaikum baloney. Islam, my brother. Assalamu alaikum. Help me, please. Please. I get right in that camera. Please. Help me, please. 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 Somebody, please. Help me, please. 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 They get so tired of my black ass, they cut this black motherfucker loose. Help me, please. Help. If he said help me, please, one more time, cut his head off. Help me. Let me tell you something. A lot of people don't know this about me. I was back in the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. Yeah, I'm that old. I was back there. I sure did. Fought for the rights of all men. And we had the Vietnam War then. Yeah, war then. Plus we had the civil rights movement at the same time. You talking about somebody protesting every day. I was out there every fucking day. I got hit in the head with a billy stick. Soldier knocked the shit out of me. Now let me tell you something about being hit in the head with a billy stick. When the National Guard tell your ass to move, get the fuck on. So, that soldier knocked the shit out of me. Everybody else trying to be like Martin Luther King, turn the other cheek. We had a picket sign, they all trying to be docile, singing the freedom song real soft. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. But I was loud. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Bring the boys home from Vietnam and give us our civil rights, you motherfucker.
So I think that's a good point to elaborate on there also. Back in those days, civil rights movement and coming off of Jim Crow, it was rough, man. It was really rough for African American people in this country, and they were just trying to stand up for something, you know, to get their basic civil rights and not be told they got to sit at the back of a bus. You know, to not be told they have to drink out of a different water fountain, can't eat in this restaurant, can't use this bathroom, can't, you know, they had to go sit up top of the movie theaters, couldn't go down where everyone else was. They got to go sit up in the balcony cheap seats or something. You know what I mean? And when the protests started just to try to get that equality, there was a lot of issues just like what he's describing, you know. And it's not something that anyone in this country should be proud of that ever happened. It's just part of our history. But thankfully, you know, people like Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, got out, protested, and John Witherspoon got out apparently in the streets and helped out with the cause also. And then people on the political side of the aisle, like President Kennedy, okay, got the real civil rights thing really moving. And let's not forget that also, you know, Dwight Eisenhower even before the civil rights movement really took off, he had a big role of sending troops down south, to help with some of those issues too. So, but thankfully, this country came out on the right side of that issue. And obviously, there's still some issues out there in the world today, and there's still people who have a lot of hate in their heart, have a lot of racism, and it's really just a sad thing. It really is. As Dr. King said, you should judge someone by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And I believe that 100%. But what he's talking about here, while adding a little bit of that humor to it, is really something that took place and happened to a lot of people. And so anyone who got out and stood up for themselves, to not be treated as a second-class citizen during that time, my hat's off to them. It really is. And if you think about it, not destruction of property, not vandalism, not tearing up, your own community, because to me that's very foolish. But to get out and just to protest and things like that, those are things, while some people say, oh, they should just shut up. Shut up. I want to argue that whole logic, because if you think about it, those are principles that this country was really built upon. When we didn't like, the way the government was treating us when we were under British rule, we stood up and we did something about it. We made our voices heard, and that is why the freedom to assemble, freedom of protest, and the freedom of speech were all in the First Amendment.
So the sergeant walked up to us. He said, look, you guys get out the corner. Move. Everyone get out the corner. I stood in his face. I said, let me tell you something, sir. We represent Martin Luther King. When Martin wouldn't leave, and I'm not going to leave there. We're not going to leave either. Not till those boys come from Vietnam and you give us our civil rights. I looked around, everybody else was gone. So three of his boys came up behind him and they said, you ain't gonna leave, huh? I done talked too much shit to leave now. Can we settle this peacefully? So he put his hand and shake my hand. Oh, you understand? I reached for the hand was gone. I looked up, the butt of a billy stick coming at my fucking head. Now that's what you look like when you're about to get hit in the head with a billy stick. Look at this shit. That motherfucker said, bam! Now let me tell you what happens immediately after you get hit in the head with a billy stick. First of all, you don't give a fuck about Vietnam. You don't have your civil rights. Kiss my black ass. And stop singing that damn song. That sign went flying. And I started oscillating back and forth now. I know he told me to go somewhere, but I forgot where. So I started pointing. Which way to go? I'm ready to go. That way, this way. Tell me where to go. That way. Tell me where to go. I'm ready to go. Tell me where to go. That way, this way, that way. Tell me. That motherfucker knocked the shit out of me. I had a knot on my head, looked like a big booty on top of my fucking head. Everybody laughing at my ass now. I bet you leave next time, motherfucker.
So, just from those, I hope everyone sees where I was, coming from with the whole, he brought up some social issues during that particular stand-up, and it's not that he was like the George Carlin type of guy that got very political, stayed really under the political side of things, social politics or whatever. But he just brought up certain social issues, and kind of hit at him a little bit while adding that nice little bit of a comedic factor in there to it as well. And I really enjoyed John Witherspoon, as an actor, as a comic. And I really thought, some people don't like a lot of language, foul language in comedy and stuff, but me personally, put that all aside. I thought he was, a really funny individual. And I was also hoping for many years now, actually, that somehow, some way, they could get Chris Tucker to come back and make another Friday movie. I really was hoping they could make one more Friday, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem that was ever able to be done because they couldn't get Chris Tucker back on board with it. And now that John's gone, I just don't see that happening. Maybe I'll be surprised one day. However, I think with John Witherspoon being gone, if you couldn't get Chris Tucker back, even if you got him back on board now, I really don't think that it would be the same without John Witherspoon. If you couldn't do it without Chris Tucker, I don't think you could do it without John Witherspoon. He was too big of a factor in, to me, all three of those Friday movies. So with that being said, I put John Witherspoon on up there. He's a American treasure. Definitely a very funny guy. Brought a lot of laughter to a lot of people and helped people. And that's one thing that I think can bring a lot of people together. Doesn't matter your political views. Doesn't matter your stance. When you're able to laugh all together, and just find the humor in something and laugh and have a good time, I think that really lightens the mood a lot. I think that really, can bring people together and to unite people where they're not so much thinking about what are our differences or what are our political views. They're just laughing and having a good time and enjoying what they're doing. And John Witherspoon was definitely one of those people who could put a smile on your face and just make you laugh. And so it's very saddening that we've lost him. So with that being said, my sympathies and my prayers are with John and his Mr. Witherspoon's family at this time. But again, like I said, I consider him, to me, an American treasure, and it's deeply saddening that he's gone. But rest in peace, good sir, and your memory will forever live on.